Hello again. Beautiful morning to you, or as it is for me. It's Dawn with Vegas Maniac Designs. Welcome back. Today is going to be the culmination of a short series of testing that I did on translucent bases. I'm working on an 18-inch round glue edge panel that I picked up at Lowe's for a little over $7. So I did some testing prior to, and this is the first one, and this was over the regular Glidden Premium semi gloss base 3, and it was almost clear enough. However, the cells and lacing from the cell activator didn't hold up that well, so I kind of discarded that one. It was, however, more sheer, more translucent than the eggshell sheen that I picked up. So this was Glidden Premium Eggshell Base 3 Untinted, and it was a little bit more opaque, or maybe I didn't stretch this one out quite as much. So that was kind of the foundation where I started from, because I did like the large cells from the cell activator. The lacing did hold up. It blurred a little, but that base was quite thin. So I made some adjustments and did another test. This was the final test. This was on the eggshell sheen, Glidden Premium Base 3, untinted. It was mixed. So what I have here in this cup is 100 grams of the eggshell Base 3, 150 grams of just regular Floetrol. And then I added about a teaspoon of matte gel medium and mixed it up really well. And this has been sitting for a couple of days, so I wanted to get the bubbles out because the bubbles don't look good. They don't look any better on a translucent base than they do on a regular bloom. So this is ready to go, and I'll put the recipe down in the description in case you want to give it a try. I added the matte gel simply to thicken it a little bit. I didn't want to leave my Floetrol standing for a few days to sort of thicken up. I may try that. It depends on how this comes out. So I've got my color palette here. I'm just going to set those aside. So on top of the translucent base, I am doing this little piggy tail feather. These are all mixed with my standard Shelly Art Bloom recipe, which I will, again, link in the description. This is this little piggy King of Pain. Beautiful shimmery deep carbon gray. And then this is a custom mix that I'm calling Shadow Green, because it's phthalo green with carbon black to give this really deep smoky green. Beautiful. This is Liquitex Bronze, which after mixing, it kept thinning. It kept getting thinner and thinner. So I actually ended up putting in a squirt of the Amsterdam Bronze because it is so thick and it has held its consistency. I'm not using the Amsterdam Bronze on its own because I just don't like it. I don't like the color of it. So the next one is going to be copper, and this is Amsterdam copper. It's not Amsterdam is not known for its metallics. The colors tend to be just a little off, but I like this copper. This is good. And then I have this little piggy Horizon, and Amsterdam Deep Gold on its own. I haven't added any quinacridone, Nicolazzo Gold. This is just straight Deep Gold. And then I was going to add a non-metallic color on top, but I've already got 7 colors plus a cell activator. So I think I'm going to just kind of try it as it is. If it doesn't work, I can clean this off, let it dry, give it a sand, do it again. I bought several of them, so I have several to go. So I have prepped this panel. This is a nice little tip for you. The Dollar Tree sells contact paper in pretty small rolls for $1.25. So rather than tape and tape and tape and tape and then trim the tape, I just lay this down, cut out a square of the contact paper, and stick it to the back and take my utility knife and just kind of go around that bottom edge to trace the round just to protect the back while I paint and then while I resin. I'm just going to get right into it. So my thickened translucent base recipe probably has thickened a little bit more because this cover that I use is not super tight fitting. It allows a little air to come around the sides. And let me just mix it just a little bit just to check the consistency. Oh yeah. So the problem I ran into was that the original mix was just so thin that it was actually easily as thin as my bloom paints themselves. And I needed the bounce of the pillow. And the eggshell untinted base is thinner than the semi-gloss by quite a bit. It's noticeable when you pour it out. So this is my consistency. You probably can't see it that well, but this is standard pillow consistency. It does make a mound. The trace lasts for 5 seconds or so. So this is actually just right. Now I'm kind of on the fly here as far as what I'm going to do. And I'm sort of torn between doing an off-center large bloom. I don't know if you can see on camera or not, but this edge of the panel actually has a very yellow strip in it that I don't want to be showing up through the bloom. So I know the primary color area is going to cover this. I don't want the bloom colors to cover the entire board. I want to have some of this wood grain showing through. And I did pick through the wood panels quite thoroughly, trying to find some with some distinct grain. With pine, you're just not going to get it. And I'm not going to use an expensive wood for something like this unless it's a commission piece. So the thought was to do one large off-center bloom, or to do a bloom vine, or to do 3 or 4 small blooms. And I actually, now that I'm looking at this panel, I'm thinking that I'm going to do an off-center bloom and try to keep the edges of the petals soft, but not splashed out like they are in my test pieces. See how they just sort of pointed out and stuff? I don't want that. And I don't want that hard line. So let's see what we get. So let's get some base down. I'm going to turn this towards me. And I have not done anything to prime this wood. Just because these paints are paint and primer in one. And I didn't have any better luck with my wood priming it first, sealing it first with polyacrylic than with just blooming right over it. So, and eventually as it dries, that wood grain will settle back down. All right. Now I need to spin off a lot of this base. And I know I probably have a little too much, but I want to make sure that I get good coverage, get enough to spin, and I can always tilt back to move the bloom back to the side that I want it to be on, which is here. So, a couple of bubbles there, and they do tend to hold their own. in this particular mixture I've got going on. And then they pop after you put the colors on, which is just great. That's the only two. And if they pop back up, they'll be easy to catch. All right. So the bloom is actually going to be over to this side. So I'm just going to move my pillow. It's going to require quite a bit of manipulation to get this to behave itself and do what I want it to do. So I'm just going to check this for making sure that it's more centered than not. And then we'll get some colors down. And I'm going to blow it out with my dryer. I want to get plenty on there. All right, here we go. So far, so good. Okay, so I got into my pillow. That was a mistake. However, my pillow has started to skin over a bit, so I can't mess around too long with this. I would rather scrape it than completely ruin it. Okay, so that went off really quick. So let's get her moving to the other side. I'm just going to give it some help here. And it's going to look off center spinning from your angle simply because the bloom is off center. I don't like it. I'm not like wow over this. I have something weird and solid. No idea what that is. I don't know, maybe the lacing will dry really cool. The nice thing about working with wood, if you have in the past, is that you can just sand it off. Your piece of wood is not ruined. And this is a full inch thick, so if I hate it, I'll let it dry and sand it. I'm wondering, I'm not really good at modifying, and I don't think it's going to help a whole lot, but something needs to help this. So, I'm just going to play, just because I don't know that this is actually going to be what I was hoping it would be. Well, I honestly don't know if that helped or hurt it. Is this thin enough? I do think it needs to be thinner. I think the base needs to be spun out considerably more. This side face towards me is fine as far as how thin the paint actually is, just because it doesn't matter. The part where the base is translucent needs to be very thin. So I've off-centered and giving it another spin to hopefully force it to thin on one side. When I can start to see some of the wood grain through the base, I know it's thin enough. Until then, it is not, and it has to be spun. Unfortunately, the spinning is not making the modified edge too wonky. It's definitely not what I had in mind. However, it might work. Let's see if we've got any. I got a little wood grain showing through, and the base has decided to cover this side all the way down except that one spot. So another spin. Now, as you continue to spin, any holes in your color where the base can pop through are going to get bigger. And as you can see, that's happened in this area here. This is more so than it was, and then I've got some over here. And I'm fine with that. I think this is unique, and I don't hate it. I don't love it, but I don't hate it. I'm going to give her a chance, and we'll see. The lacing through the color is very solid. It's very good. That one spot just wants to stay dry. Okay, now I'm reasonably sure that's just about as thin as I can get it without hurting the lacing throughout this side. And I can see some wood grain, so I think that it will dry translucent. This whole area is going to be translucent. And I don't see any wood grain through that. All right, I'm going to give it one more really good spin. Well, it didn't move. I didn't really get any movement. So, I think that this is going to be set aside to dry, and we'll see how it goes. I'll be back.